So you may have noticed that we have been setting the stage for something special. You are going to get a rare glimpse into the Motley Fool's board dinners. This is a time and place each quarter where a lot of magic happens at the Fool. So let's take a look.
Hello, conscious capitalists. My name is Randy Zuckerberg, CEO and founder of Zuckerberg Media, and welcome to my dinner party tonight. Well, don't just stand there, come on in. We have a lot of magic happening at the Motley Fool right now. I'm thrilled to be a member of the board, and of course, I'm very particular about who I invite to my dinner parties. This is a group of people who are just so purpose-driven, smart, committed to our mission. In fact, I'm so sorry that I can't be there in person with all of you, but as you can see, I have a permanent dinner party guest with me, and I'm excited to join you for future events. But why don't we see what we have on the menu tonight? Like I said, there's a lot of magic going on. Welcome everyone to the Motley Fool dinner party. First, we're going to start with a little amuse-bouche and appetizer with our company's journey and how the board has evolved in our role with the company. We're going to go on to the main course where we're going to take you through a leadership skills tutorial and what we're thinking are some of the biggest trends in leadership today. And finally, we're going to close out with some dessert. Who doesn't love dessert? With some fun team mingling and celebration. And of course, any dinner party has to end with a champagne toast to our mission of making the world smarter, happier, and richer. So without further ado, let me introduce to you my fabulous guests for the evening. We have David Gardner, Tom Gardner, John Mackey, Suzanne Fry, Martha LaRoseliere, Teresa Kirsten, and of course, myself, Randy Zuckerberg. Thanks so much. Enjoy a beautiful evening of conversation and company.
We're really happy to have this 45 minutes together with you. Our goal in this 45 minutes is to give you as many actionable items for creating a board that is really authentically true for your company, that feels really integrated in your organization, and that matters, that you look forward to spending that time together, that you rely on the advice that you get from your board directors, that you're looking forward to those meetings rather than dreading them. And that's the spirit of everything we'll be talking about here in the next 45 minutes. I think we wanted to start just by introducing how we attracted the three external directors first that are here at the table. John Mackey at Whole Foods Amazon. We don't think of it as Amazon Whole Foods. We think of it as Whole Foods Amazon. And Suzanne Fry at Google, and Teresa Kirsten at LinkedIn Microsoft. We don't think of it as Microsoft LinkedIn. We think of it as LinkedIn Microsoft. And I think the first actionable suggestion that we have for everyone here is to really look at the social network that all of our organizations have locally and in your industry, and to remember that every public company has an investor relations department that you can contact and ask to talk to the chief technology officer at that organization, et cetera. Companies are much more open on average to hearing from you, particularly if you're reaching in your industry or you have a real reason to talk to them. So in the case of our three directors, every single one of them came to the Motley Fool simply because we essentially reached out almost with no prior reason to be able to talk to them, and just expressed our interest in the work they're doing and how we might like to have them join us at the Motley Fool. And that originates with a full-time role at the Motley Fool of somebody. By the way, this is going to be a 42-minute talk by me, and then everyone else will get 3 minutes to express themselves.
Without meaning to interrupt you.
No, please.
My understanding is that this is real food.
Yes, it is.
This is a supper, so I think we should get started. And we're saving dessert for last. We're looking forward to sharing that with you. My understanding is that this is real wine, and I think it is past 9 a.m., so...
I question this is real food. I'm sorry.
So I think the first question we have for John and Suzanne and Teresa is just a little bit about your earliest experience joining our board. What caused you to decide to sign up with us and to take on our mission of making the world smarter, happier, and richer? So we'll start with John.
I'll go first. So this is the only for-profit board I'm on. I'm on 4 nonprofit boards. I'm saying that so nobody will ask me to join their board this next couple of days. I recruited myself on the Motley Fool board because I so impressed. Let me just say, I'm a Motley Fool groupie. Just curious, how many people here are members of the Motley Fool? Raise your hand. You guys are really smart, and the rest of you, you know, get with it, gang. The Motley Fool is like amazing, and I met Tom and David, and basically, it's like these guys are super cool. They're fun to hang out with. I love everything about the Motley Fool. I'm a member, and it was like I went up to him and said, if you guys ever decide you want to add an outside director, you're like one of like 3 companies in the world I'd want to be an outside director on. And a couple of years later, they took me up on it. And I will tell you, our board meetings are so much fun. They really are. I mean, it's just incredible the fun things we do in those board meetings. Top secret missions. We get stock pitches, which I think you're going to hear one today while we're up here. We've played Jeopardy in terms of questions that you ask. We had a board dinner last night, and we played a game.
We don't actually talk about our business.
Tom and David did not let me win the game.
We don't show them our financial
They
statements.
definitely were prejudiced against me. However, it's a very conscious board. My co-directors are fantastic, and they take us deep into their business. And it's a closely held firm, right? So we have no illusions. We're not. We have governance responsibilities, but primarily we're there to help this company flourish at a higher level. And they take us in as partners, and I'm just having the time of my life on their board.
Dan.
Absolutely. Well, I'll just echo how much fun it is, but I'll leave that at the end. So I think with any great board, it takes at least 2, and I'd say it actually takes more than that. It needs someone who's interested in finding a good board member, and it has to take somebody on the other side who's actually expressed interest in being on a board, as John just said. And certainly I had done that within Google, and I'm very lucky that I work for a company, and Teresa works for a company that supports individuals going out and serving on boards. It actually is a great way to develop, I'd say, horizontally and really expand your skill set. So very lucky that made connections through Google that way, and you had reached out to Laszlo Baca, if I recall, and Laszlo had reached out to me, and I was so excited because, you know, I had been sort of an I'd say itinerant investor since 2nd grade, so it was very exciting for me to be able to join the Motley Fool, and I've had a blast ever since. Beyond being able to work with all the awesome people around this table, my very first day I was invited up to stage, and I was set against 3 of the internal fools who cover Alphabet/Google as a stock pitch, and I had to compete with them for knowledge over Google. And this was in front of the entire company. No one told me this was happening. I just walked in, and it was awesome. I won by 1 point, and I was able to stay on the board. So it was awesome.
Well, and one of the things that attracted me most to the Motley Fool when it came up as a possibility was the conscious capitalism aspect of the board. So I think when you're looking at potential board members, when you're looking at setting up a board, expanding your board, revising your board, it's really good to look for people who have very similar values to your management team. But it's also really good, I suggest, to sit down and think about what is the particular skill set that you'd like the board to bring to add to the capabilities of the management team. So is it that you need more help with marketing? Do you want someone to help you really think through strategy? Make a list of the things that are most important and most additive, and then go out and reach out to your network and your community looking for those particular skills, and also people who really match your very dearly held values.
At this point in our schedule, it was set up for me to tell a little bit about our history as a company and how we got here, but I actually think it'd be great, Dave, for you to introduce our employee director and
Sure.
the concept behind that, and Martha.
Yeah. So we decided, we're 26 years old, so as a company, we've really evolved to try to make our board relevant at each stage. Like many of you, early on anyway, we had financiers on our board. America Online had invested in us, kind of over a barrel. They forced themselves to invest in us, and we welcomed that, and they were a great partner for the Motley Fool for the first 5 or 6 years. But then we started taking in venture capital, Silicon Valley, some good firms, and so we had very much that kind of a board. But Tom and I, being brothers and as a family company, we never really dreamed of having lots of financiers sitting around and giving us advice at our board meeting. We've always been trying to create something beautiful over the long term, and so we started to transition our board toward people that we admired from companies that we did. Now, I realize we're all different companies, and maybe by dint of us being the Motley Fool, where by nature we study other companies and get to meet them and try to talk to the CFO or have somebody on a radio show. So probably we index really high toward accessibility, toward great people and great companies. But I truly believe, regardless of what your business is and where you are, if you have that sense, as John said just a little while ago, of fun, then for us anyway, we began to transition to having this group of people, and in particular, Martha, who I want to introduce now. And Martha, how long have you been at the Motley Fool?
This September will be 21 years.
21 years. And what has been your role at the Fool?
Right now, my title is General Counsel, but anything and everything legal.
Yep. And Tom and I began to talk about how we should have an employee on the board. And that conversation started, Tom, 7 or 8 years ago. And we had our first one, Kara McDonough. And Kara recently rotated off. She's our Chief Financial Officer today. She didn't start that way on the board. But Martha, you were voted by our employees. You were the most popular selection to represent them. So maybe that's another actionable item in a world where a lot of people feel disconnected from their board. A lot of you, raise your hand if you have a board. Let's do a quick show of hands. A, you look forward to your next board meeting. And B, you do not look forward to your next board meeting. Let's see all the A's. Okay, now let's see all the B's. Okay.
Apparently a lot of C's in the group.
Yeah. I guess, was that neither of the above? So I'm actually really happy to see that of the hands that went up, the majority are looking forward to their next board meeting. But Tom, you and I weren't really doing that 10 or 15 years ago. But it was, in fact, thinking that we should have an employee representative join us on the board and represent that viewpoint, that critical stakeholder that we love so much, the Motley Fool. And so, Martha, what has been your experience so far, and could you describe how you've already changed our company in the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of your tenure?
From a personal perspective, I think it's just such a wonderful opportunity to actually have a voice and be heard, to hopefully help all our stakeholders and not just the employees, because as everyone, if you're at this conference, you help one, it benefits everybody else. And I think it helps the board in that it's a direct link to the organization. So it's, as John likes to say, it's a win-win throughout. And also, it's only been a few months, but it's already been a learning opportunity for me to sit in a room with Teresa, Suzanne, and John and hear their thoughts on business, on our business. It's just been incredible.
And it's been really helpful, I think, for the whole board. Anytime there's a question about how does this affect our employees, how do people think about it, Martha always has a perspective that's going to be different necessarily than Tom and David, so it's really good to have the richness of that added.
I just want to reflect on one or two things we heard before we go to the next topic. I want to remind us of what Suzanne shared, that our connection to Suzanne at Google was through Laszlo Bock, who was the head of the people team at Google. I highly recommend his book. How many people have read the book Work Rules? Great. For those of you who aren't raising your hand, you have a real treat ahead of you, a really data-driven view of how to build a performance culture with a lot of support across an enormous franchise at Google with 90,000 plus employees now. But so we got to know Laszlo. Pretty much anyone we get to know, we immediately start wondering, how can we get them involved in what we're doing? How can we take advantage of their network? How can we learn from them? And how can we create an experience that helps them to get smarter, happier, and richer because of their time with us? And so I would recommend to you to reach out to organizations, particularly through the head of HR. If you can get in touch with the head of the people team or the culture team of that organization, invariably, I think all of our organizations, should be open to, lean towards, and maybe be very excited about as many of our employees serving on boards as possible. It gives you a different perspective. And so Laszlo went into the network and found somebody who loves investing, someone who has deep tech experience, somebody who's privacy and data security expertise, and other things that we were looking for. So I really recommend that to everyone here in terms of building out your board. Dave, what about missions?
Yeah. So for us at the Motley Fool, our purpose, as Randy led off with, which, by the way, is I think our third purpose statement in our 26 years. So we don't do that very often. I don't think most of us should change our purpose very often, but we did about 6 months ago. It's to make the world smarter, happier, and richer. And so as we thought about that consciously and trying to do a conscious board as best we could, we thought, I guess it makes sense that we should be trying to make our board smarter, happier, and richer. And I've always said with our purpose statement, the most important word in that purpose statement is "and." Because a lot of companies might make the world smarter. In fact, Google makes the world smarter, and a lot of companies make the world happier. There are a lot of them here today, and I think of Disney as a great example of a company that makes the world happier. And then there's richer, and that's a lot of Wall Street, which in some ways the Motley Fool was invented to turn the tables on. But when we're doing our foolish best, it's smarter, happier, and richer, all three, never one without the other two. And so we thought, Tom, as we designed our board meetings, how do we do that? And especially, how do we make it fun? In fact, I know you were kicking around with your direct reports. Tom's our CEO. About a year ago, you were having a conversation. What was that conversation you were having with them?
We were sitting there. I think there were a number of projects that were coming to a deadline moment for us, and we were pretty tired as a leadership team, and we had a board meeting in, I think, 4 or 5 days. And we were sitting in the room, and I just sort of read the energy of where we all are, and realize. And I just asked, how many of us are actually looking forward to this meeting? And no one was. And what a sad state that is to get to. Very understandable with so many different things that our team is working on. But we love our directors. If it were a dinner party, we would all want to attend that dinner party. But there was something about it being a board meeting, the responsibility of a board meeting, that was causing us to say, I'm really excited to get through that one. That's going to be great to get on the other side of it and get back to work. And so we pushed everything to the side of what we were planning for that meeting, and we created something new. And maybe we'll highlight 2 things that we created. I think the first is connecting you with our purpose and with our vision of providing outstanding business and investing advice at scale. And we brought some stock pitches into the mix. So maybe a little bit from the 4 of you about that, or any one of you about that. Maybe John.
John, would you describe a mission that you've been on at the Motley Fool?
Well, they're top secret, Tom. When you come into a Motley Fool board meeting, the first thing you do is they hand you an envelope that's got your top secret mission for the day. And the missions are always very interesting because they're deeper dives with different parts of the business. Like one time I met with the VC team. They have a venture capital arm. I met with the VC team. Another time I've met with Jeremy, and back then when it was the sort of U.S. operations to talk about customer retention, how do they hold on to customers, and we did a deep dive around that business. And so one of the things, if you're going to serve on any board, every director wants to feel like they're making a contribution, and oftentimes management is rather patronizing towards directors because they come once a quarter and they can't possibly understand the business as well as management does, and so there's just sort of you sort of tolerate your board. And at the Motley Fool, they really are so eager to learn and fulfill their higher purpose that they want the deeper engagement of the board with the team, with the staff, with the team members, with all the stakeholders. And that's what every director wants. So I always feel like they really want me there. They want my wisdom. They want my experience, and they really listen to it. So that makes it, and I'm always stimulated and challenged and engaged. And so I truthfully, that higher purpose really works for me because they are making me smarter. I've learned a lot of The Motley Fool is like the top-rated Glassdoor business of their scale, and one of the top in the whole United States, and the top for sure in the D.C. area. And a lot of things they do, I've been going to school on. I've learned a lot for Whole Foods from just seeing what the Motley Fool's doing. That's helped make Whole Foods better. And they've definitely made me happier because I just laugh my head off every time I come to one of the gatherings. And honestly, it made me richer too. I mean, I've made a massive amount of money investing in Motley Fool recommendations. I mean, it's like I've got this little test going on where I got some of my assets in ETFs and index funds, and the other half in Motley Fool. And the Motley Fool's cleaning the clock of the index funds. So
That's awesome.
they're
John.
making me richer, and yeah, I don't object to that.
Thank you. So John has just reflected on how he's gotten smarter, happier, and richer. But I hope you picked up that by having our talented board members on missions, they're really getting to meet our employees. Our employees are getting to meet these people. There's a real connection every single quarterly meeting. I think you could almost have every single one of our roughly 350 employees raise their hand and say they've gotten to meet one or more of our directors on board meeting day. So while, John, you're kind to say that we've done that for you and we're definitely purposing that, you're doing that through missions as one example with all our employees. Now, another thing we want to do, and I think we've got a quick video we'll put up, is we do stock pitches. We are the Motley Fool. So instead of just sitting there and having lunch, we have our analysts come in and just pitch 90 seconds or so, a few different stocks. And then our board members at the end vote which one they find most favorable they would buy. And then we even track statistics on that. So let's just, if we could roll it, let's take a quick look at what stock pitches look like.
I usually
Motley Fool
buy
board
at
meetings.
least one of the pitches
Same here.
before lunch is over.
I take a little longer. It's normally by the end
Yeah,
of the
well,
day.
I got my iPad right there.
Your what?
I'm Nick Seipo, an editor on
Sorry.
Fool.com and host of the Industry Focus Energy podcast. What if I told you that you could get exposure to augmented reality, 5G cell networks, electric vehicles, and autonomous driving all from one small company? Well, you can. That company is 26, a vertically integrated worldwide leader in engineered materials and optoelectric components. For the uninitiated, we're talking about lasers. Today, 26's products are enabling the future in which we'll all soon live. Its VCSEL 3D sensing chips are a key component of the augmented reality applications of the future and for the LiDAR systems that make autonomous driving possible. Its photonics products for the data center help supply the bandwidth that makes cloud computing possible, helping democratize access to computing power. 26's radio frequency electronics products are enabling the next generation of communication systems as countries around the world invest in 5G networks. And its silicon carbide-based power electronics products are helping electric cars charge faster and improving efficiency for solar and wind power generation, making the world a cleaner place to live. Bringing these offerings together, 26 should be able to grow revenue at a double-digit CAGR over the next 5 years, bolstered by these huge technological tailwinds. Further, 26 has a demonstrated ability to grow in spite of broader economic conditions, growing revenue through every industrial downturn of the past 15 years, with the exception of the Great Recession of 2009, and reporting an annual profit in every year since 1973. While there may be near-term turbulence as the company digests its recent acquisition of competitor Finisar, 26 management has positioned the business to deliver investor returns by combining a compelling product portfolio with unstoppable technology megatrends that are shaping the future.
Hi, my name is Maria Gallagher. I'm an analyst at the Motley Fool, and I'm here to tell you that Etsy is proof that being a good corporate citizen and being a profitable business do not need to be mutually exclusive. In fact, last year, their gross merchandise sales topped $3.9 billion, which was a 20% year-over-year increase. And with a total addressable market of $1.7 trillion, Etsy's just getting started. But more than that profitability of their business, Etsy embodies all of the tenets of conscious capitalism. 1, a higher purpose. Etsy's platform gives the opportunity for small businesses to have a scale and a reach that they normally wouldn't have been able to achieve on their own. In fact, 87% of Etsy sellers are women, and 49% of them started their small business in a response to a financial challenge. 2, stakeholder orientation. Investors want to believe in the company they invest in, that it helps them, their employees, and the world around them. Etsy is committed to 100% renewable electricity by 2020 and is the first global e-commerce place to offset all carbon emissions. 3, conscious leadership. When going to increase prices last year, Etsy's leadership decided against increasing the initial input prices. So sellers were only impacted by this price increase if they were actually selling items. 4, a conscious culture. Etsy has female representation on over 50% of their board and their executives, as well as having double the industry standard of female engineers. So I think Etsy is primed to continue to dominate their niche market, and as their CEO puts it, no one says, I wanted to get you something really special. I bought it on Amazon. So that's Etsy, ticker ETSY. Thank you.
Capitalists. My name is Alice Lomax, and I'm a senior analyst for the Motley Fool. My areas of expertise are socially responsible investing and ESG investing. I truly believe that care for stakeholders builds stronger companies and yields better investments. My stock pick today is Interface. Conscious capitalists may be aware of this company. It is actually a carpet company. And its founder, Ray Anderson, in 1994, had an epiphany about his company's environmental impact. He didn't want to be just another sustainable carpet company. Instead, he came up with something called Mission Zero, which was a commitment to eliminate any negative impact the company has on the planet by 2020. As I recall in his memoir, he said that when he went to his employees with this idea, he was worried that they would dismiss it outright. And I think there were people who said it couldn't be done, but instead the employees were galvanized. And this has built a more innovative company to go for such an audacious goal. And in fact, the company is very close to achieving Mission Zero. It also does some innovative things in biomimicry, which uses principles of nature to solve problems. This is a very profitable company that's been around, obviously, for a long time. And we've now seen 7 consecutive quarters of net sales growth, and last quarter, its sales growth grew by 27%. It's also trading at 9 times forward earnings, which I believe makes it a good purchase at this time, and it also has a 1.5% dividend yield. So I'm hoping that conscious capitalists will take a look at this company that was such a model for stakeholder-centric business. Thank you.
All right, so we want you to play the game with us. So there are 3 companies, just to summarize, 26, Etsy, and Interface. Now, one of those companies has gotten some play here at our conference. But think about it. If you were putting down $1,000, buying one of those 3 stocks, I want you to think about which one do you think is going to perform best over the next 5+ years, which is kind of our minimum increment at the Motley Fool. We don't really think anything less than 5 years is a good holding period when you're really approaching the stock market to win the game. So with that said, I want you to have in mind 26, Etsy, and Interface. And I'm curious, show of hands, if you think that 26 will be the best performer in the next 5 years. Great. Show of hands, if you think Etsy will be the next best performer next 5 years. And show of hands for Interface, winning next 5 years. Wow, that's incredibly balanced. You know, we love all 3 of them, which is why we wanted to just share those pitches. But what we're obviously wanting to do with this 45 minutes we're spending together is just show off and share kind of how we roll and what we're doing when it comes to the Motley Fool's board meetings.
And I'd like to emphasize there just the importance of giving your employees an opportunity and your team members an opportunity to sit with your directors and to share the work that they're doing, to share their passion for what they're creating for the world. What ends up happening, of course, and I'd like to hear a little bit from Teresa and Suzanne about this, but what ends up happening, I'll say for the employees first, is a real sense of pride in the work they're doing. Yeah. And we underrate the extent to which somebody who has an opportunity to pitch a stock or to be on a mission with each of you returns home and tells their family about it. It gets them more excited about the work and the opportunity to do that again. But I'd love to hear Teresa and Suzanne.
And there's a lot of different ways to do that. So the stock pick is great. First of all, that really connects the board to the mission of the Motley Fool. It just reminds us what it's all about. And I think there's just a lot of different ways you can make sure to do that with your own board of directors, whether it's having them hear from customers, whether there's stories that you can tell them that really connect them to why your company really matters. And then I think also there's been a number of different ways that lunch has been used. So we've had summer interns come in and report on their projects. That helps the summer interns shine, but it also helps us better understand some of the challenges the Motley Fool's going through. We've had board dinners where employees were invited. We've had Q&A sessions. So there's a lot of different ways you can set up to make sure that the board gets connected and really feel something with the employees, and the employees get that same exposure where they can ask questions or present their work.
And I'll add that in a lot of public company board structures, you have formal audit committees and compensation committees and all this, and we don't do that on the Motley Fool board. But what we do is we do align with areas of expertise. So, for example, my domain at my other job is on data privacy and compliance and data security. And every company these days is a data company, every single one. And you may not think of that first with the Motley Fool, but obviously there's a lot of data in motion, both from members and the protection of their information, as well as all the information that's brought in from the outside. So, I am connected directly with the legal team and with the IT team, and we connect throughout the quarter as well and work on, deeper dive projects, and I'm able to give them some advice, also listen in what's happening, and we don't have to bring the whole board into that discussion, but we lightly touch upon everything then at the next board meeting. It's a good way to keep the entire board, in touch with these topics, but not necessarily, frankly, bring the whole board meeting down into like the realm of compliance when maybe that's not the best use of everyone's time.
Suzanne met with, I don't know if you remember, I guess about a year ago this time, met with a group from legal and tech to discuss GDPR. And I guess it was maybe 30, 45 minutes. And afterwards, one of the techies there said, this was more helpful than all the stuff I've been reading online and all the things you've been sending me. And first, there's the knowledge there that we get 45 minutes with somebody from Google who's been, I remember you told us you had been working on this for 2 years, and we just started about 2 weeks before that. And it's just you get firsthand knowledge, and the fools that were there were just so thankful that they got that opportunity. So.
One of the that was kind of a discovery for when we realized we weren't looking forward to the board meeting. We realized that we were having meetings with kind of general conversations with our directors when we had really specialized knowledge from each of our directors, and we weren't really capitalizing on that. And so we broke the mornings out, typically, and sent each director on a mission. As John said, you arrive in the morning, you get your top secret mission, you open the envelope, our directors are excited about that. You find you're going to go help our team that's trying to do a better job in really connecting our marketing to our prospects and really standing behind our values in all of the marketing that we do, which is an area that we've been working on and have a lot more work to do as a company. And we've got Teresa, who has a real specialty in that, ran an agency, a marketing advertising agency for 15 years.
And I think what's really good about that is in the board meeting, you might say, hey, you should streamline your product line, which is like super helpful, so general. But then when you go on the mission, you actually sit with the team for an hour and a half. You go through exactly what the product line looks like. You can give some perspective on that. First of all, it educates you on how hard it is to do, but it also gives much more specific advice than something really generic like, oh, streamline it.
And so instead of all of our directors going to that together, right, we're splitting them out into different challenges that our team and our company is facing that each of our directors can really help us with. One thing I want to say before we roll to the final challenge, or toward the final challenge of our conversation today is we're really excited about where we are as a company. It has been 26 years. We're in our 26th year. This took 26 years for us to figure out. We had board meetings that should be spelled differently than B-O-A-R-D. We had a lot of board meetings, B-O-R-E-D. We learned slowly and gradually. We had venture capitalists, as David said. They were very supportive of our company in the early years of those investments in the business, but as they began to wind towards the end of the term and realized that we probably did not want to go public and did not want to sell our business, we went through the process of repurchasing our shares from our venture capitalists, which was quite expensive, difficult. Martha on our board will tell me, make sure you say only a few things about this, but one of our venture capitalists sued to try and force us to go public. So those board meetings required, we were all sitting there very awkwardly working our way through. I think that what's happened at the Motley Fool, somewhat consciously and intentionally, and somewhat pure luck, and a lot of just being there, persisting and loving what we're doing, is that we found we won an authentic board that really represents what we stand for and what we believe in and is aligned with our time horizon. And I know for many of you in different relationships with bankers and investors and wherever you are in your business, maybe you can't achieve the full alignment naturally that I feel we now have with our board 25 years in. But we didn't have it throughout this entire quarter century, but to really work each meeting to try and get everyone to be on the same page with you as an entrepreneur and where you're trying to go. Not that they won't change your mind, that's great, but to make sure that they're aligned around the purpose and the time horizon of your business.
So time's going to run out real quick here. So let's just summarize a couple of things and give some takeaways. And I'm going to give a few, but I'd love for each of you to share and add to this. So just stirring into the cauldron of shared meaning, are you looking forward to your next board meeting? And even if you are, how could you make it more awesome? For us, we love games, so we're, in addition to trying to imbue our purpose into everything that we do, including our board meetings, we tend to play games. In fact, we played one last night because we had our board meeting here in Phoenix last night, and we played basically a made-up version of Apples to Apples, where we would ask really silly questions like, if the Motley Fool were to open a restaurant, which, by the way, would be a great a sign of diversification, and you should be shorting our stock if we ever did that, but if we did, what would be the name of a restaurant for the Motley Fool? And our name does come from Shakespeare, and so the winning entry, as I recall, I don't even remember which team it was, but it was As You Like It.
My team was her
Okay, yeah.
The
Suzanne,
Fool-a-Doodle Fund.
As You Like It.
I can't take credit with someone else on the team.
So good.
But
Shay Fool should have won.
it's too expensive.
So it's very natural for us to try to game things up,
The Motley Fool's
gamification
pretty
in every
expensive,
way we
I
can.
noticed.
The Fool, because Tom and I love games. We grew up playing games together. So again, are you looking forward to your next board meeting, and how could you make it more awesome than that? And then maybe a second one, and then I'm opening it up again, is, are you making your purpose shine through and help structure what you do with your board? Not just about the meetings, of course, but those times in between the meetings. And is there an opportunity for every employee at your company to get to know one or more of the board members? So a couple rhetorical questions.
And then I was going to add, do you have the right skills on your board? And if you don't, how can you go about getting them?
And I'll add, just you have a tremendous opportunity right here. I think shared ethos on the board is an incredibly important aspect of the board that's around the table here. We do, I think, all share high integrity, great products, a customer focus, the golden rule in life and at work. And, you have an opportunity in this conference really to make some great board connections, either if you're interested in being on a board or looking for board members.
I think what I'll say is that having run a public company for 25 years, the boards that you get in a public company are going to be primarily governance boards. They have a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, and mostly, there's big corporations get sued a lot, and so there's partly a sort of cover your ass attitude sometimes on the public boards. But many people in this audience that are running their own companies or senior officers in it, there's an advantage because you can create on a closely held company, you can create a more conscious board that will really help catalyze your organization in ways that can make it better. And I think that's the way Tom and David, it's obviously, they created the company, they own most of the stock. We can't fire the management. In a public company, you're very conscious the board can fire management. Well, we can't fire Tom and David because they are the shareholders and they would fire the board. So the point of it is that if you're running a closely held company, you should view creating a board as a way to make your company better and to fulfill its higher purpose in the world. It's not just a perfunctory thing. It's something that you should create strategically in ways to take your organization to the next level. That's what these guys have done, and I'm really proud to be associated with it.
Hear, hear.
And follow up on what John said, once you do have that group of people, is use them and listen to them. After the board meeting is done, we have debriefs. We go back and look at the notes of what we learned and what we can apply. So it's nice to have, hey, we've got Google, we've got Whole Foods, we've got LinkedIn represented, but we actually take what we've learned and make it our own and make it better.
If we don't make an important change after every board meeting, we've not used that time as well as we could have. I'll just make the suggestion of really, we're not a title-based company at the Motley Fool. It's not a very important. To be the CEO of Fools. I mean, it's just, it's not. And you see from our stock pitches how brilliant the people are that are at our company, and that's something I love about conscious capitalism. Every gathering that I get to spend time with people who care about this movement, the intelligence and the passion and enthusiasm and the care and the love that each of us are bringing to our organizations really matters. But we do have titles. There are titles. We may not think about them ourselves at our work, and the title of board director is a big title. And it really matters to have your directors out with your employees, out in the community, out in their worlds, expressing your purpose, demonstrating your values, and really to showcase that in meetings with employees as much as possible. So that would be my last suggestion, but I think we've got a final.
Yeah, well, just to close then, thank you all for suffering Fools Gladly. We really appreciate this time with you. I hope we said something that was helpful. It was, in a way, kind of self-indulgent for us to just share our board with you and eat in front of you. Sorry. I never did have a sip of wine, so I'm going to.
This is what we typically get at a board dinner. So,
right.
Not going over to Randy's house again.
But we did want to share a dessert with you. So I think in the center of each table, if you haven't already reached over, why don't you? And let's pop these babies open and see what's for dessert.
I forget, what do they say?
I have one last thing to say. Probably shouldn't say it though.
Hey, to make the world, how are you going to make the world smart, happy, richer?
Is that right?
Ours don't.
Make the world happy.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Dave, I have one last thing I wanted to say.
Please do. Please
Should
do.
I do it before or after
Yeah.
you?
I'll go. Yeah, good. All right, so in closing, Tom and I love this movement. We love John Mackey. John came to our company, invited to speak for free. He did 10 years ago. He said, hey, you guys should come to my conference after that. We've been to almost every one since. My email address is davidg@fool.com. Tom, yours is tomg@fool.com. If you have any questions about how to do a board better, or if we can help you as fellow entrepreneurs with your business, we're here. Tom?
This may sound like a celebration in some way, but actually I think we're only a few years away, hopefully, from this being a non-factor that we shouldn't even have to celebrate. But the Motley Fool board with Randy, who brought us into this, has more women than men on our board. And in a way, I think that's awesome, and in a way, that's the way it should always have been. And that's the way that business is going to get stronger. If everyone feels like they have a stake and an opportunity to be anywhere in any organization, to grow their career and change the world, that really matters. So I think we do really show something to the world by the photographs of our board up on our sites and what we're showing to the world, and how inclusive we are and how much we care about everyone fulfilling their potential. So just wanted to add that in the end, and I love our board, and thank you all for guiding Dave and me.
Thank you. And Fool on. Fool on. Thank you.